I think this is the most varied Mudvayne song I've heard in terms of sounding like they're a part of the new metal scene. And it's still cool that he's able to inject these forward lead, jump out of the mix bass parts that he's known for. I just love listening to it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. Severed is from Mudvayne's debut studio album, LD50, released in the year 2000. And as I've said before, their song Dig is all I ever really knew about the band for many, many years. It was actually one of the first analysis videos I did here on the channel. But since then, you guys have led me down their discography. I've since reviewed their song Happy. We've done Not Falling. And I agree with all of you that it is disappointing hearing Ryan Martinie's bass parts get continually buried as the band goes on, because I feel what Ryan adds to this band's sound is precisely what set them apart from their peers at the time. So I wanted to return to an album where I know the bass is very loud and very clear, and I've seen so many requests for Severed. Plus, I feel it's a bit overdue having my old pal here in a video, so without further ado, here is Severed from Mudvayne. Yeah, when I think about LD50, my mind goes to Dig. Percussive, dissonant, slap stuff, So it's nice to hear some of this jazzy, lyrical, melodic stuff that I feel like was a lot more present on the later songs I've done. First thing that comes to mind is the verses from Not Falling. Really cool bass stuff in that one. Despite being harder to pick out, it's refreshing to hear this bass mix again. They're kind of hearing this almost Middle Eastern tonality in terms of the Phrygian mode. I hear like B Phrygian kind of in that bass part. It's very characterized by those half steps. And that little slide he did, it almost made me think as fretless. I feel like I read that he used a fretless on this album at some point. Don't know which songs. I'm going to go back to the beginning and hear that open up. Cool, dissonant, tritone heavy opening here. Yeah. Down to the power chords. Oh yeah. Beefy already. B and C, lots of half steps here. What's cool about the bass line here, where obviously it's converging and bass and guitar kind of going down and playing this lower riff as verse 1 starts, simplifying a bit. I feel like Ryan's bass line is obviously following the guitar part in unison, just the B, C, and the power chords. But in those spaces where the guitar cuts out for a second, I feel like he's calling back to that lead bass thing he did in the intro with the F sharp and the G. Kind of hear this. While the guitar is just kind of hitting the cutting out for a couple beats, you have the bass going. So a nice just way to carry that melody and some of those notes into the verse, if that was intentional. What a tone already, man. It's like a chainsaw. Right there. What was that? I think what's happening here is the guitars are riffing on C where they have been. I think Ryan's jumping up and playing the 5th and the 9th. So you get this kind of sound, 1, 5, and then so it's 2 fifth intervals stacked on each other. So you get this kind of sound there. It's a little more, it's a little clearer to hear when bass is doing it on top of guitar. That's the thing about the Warwick Thumb bass tone. You can get away with chords at lower frequencies or pitches, if you will, because there's such little bass information. Even when I'm down here, I mean, it sounds like a low bass note, but it's not woofy like a P bass. I've talked about this concept in several videos where there's sort of a diminishing returns point on bass when you start doing intervals and chords. The lower you get, it starts sounding, I mean, it sounds worse the lower you get, but I feel like on a Warwick Thumb, you can get a little lower, and you still have a bit of clarity. It's that nasally low mid focus, 300 hertz to 600 hertz. There's something magic about the thumb bass. It's a big part of their sound, and you can kind of hear that on display here. You don't lose clarity when he starts doing chords on those lower notes, especially when he's doing power chords down here. Sounds clear and punchy. All right, here's that 9 chord thing. Sounds like that's what that is. Okay. Okay, wow. A lot going on there. It blended so well. I don't know, we had this sort of chromatic, almost atonal sounding, but very sort of progressive sounding riff here on the 8th notes. And what's cool about it is you heard that vocal note just right on one note, held out on one syllable, one note, everything changed under it. It's a cool dynamic I also talk about when something stays the same in the song, everything changes around it. It just contextualizes who's up front. This gives a chance for those riffs to kind of be front and center. Right here. Some proggy goodness as well. I have no idea. It's too fast. Heard that high bass note? Okay. Perfect. If you're a bass player and you're not changing your bass line on verse 2, you're screwing up. It's the perfect opportunity to just give new life to verse 2. You don't want them to be the same. You want the choruses to be the same. I still think changing the bass line on a chorus 2 can be effective, but you want those changes to be a bit more subtle. Maybe the same bass line as chorus 1 with more. It needs to feel familiar, though. That's the point of a chorus. Everything converges and it's back to sing-along home bass. Maybe not sing-along from Mudvayne, but in the general sense, a chorus needs to be that familiar home bass of the song. But take your verse 1 bass line, build on it, or do something completely different. This is completely different. Verse 1, we were down here more in unison with the guitar parts. Now he's doing some sort of funkier, I think there might have been a pop or a slap in there, but it's just voiced completely differently. Let's start there. That really caught me off guard in the coolest way possible. It's like a whole different part of the song. Wow. Double stops, and he alludes to the verse 1 bass line. It goes down to the low B. A lot of little elements happening there. Just very intriguing. Let me hear it again. Those little popped or just really dug in muted notes. Not on a harmonic. just a whole different animal. I love it. It's just really creative. Creative bass part. Yeah. It does a little tritone, I think, there. Okay. I'm interested to know if he builds on that a bit more. That's kind of Pantera-ish in a way. You know, this is what makes Mudvayne a whole... what did I say? This is what makes Mudvayne a whole different nu metal band. There we go, Mark. You hear how they just... the guitar part just landed on the B. Plain, wrung out, low B power chord. I think that's what their peers would have done. Their peers, and I refer to other bands from their scene at this time, they wouldn't have had a bass player come in and just add this tail-end tag... That type of stuff right here. This is just what precisely sets them apart, like I said. It's just so creative for that time period, I think, in metal. Funky octaves. Yeah. A bit of funkiness now. That's a cool chord. Bass chords. More tritones, I think. Bass coming down here, I'd say simplifying for the moment being, really locking on that low B. Do, 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 do. Halftime, almost their version of a breakdown. But Ryan's jumping up and sliding to different double stops. It's just a cool development of the bass line. It hasn't been linear. It's kind of been zigzag, especially from verse 1 to verse 2. It's a whole different approach. That little funky, but don't chord. And just the whole kitchen sink thrown in on that verse 2 bass line. Now it's sort of building off of that, the way he introduced those techniques into the song here. All this stuff going on right here. They're all a little different. That sounds like a big chord. I think he's changing a couple of the notes. No, not that pretty. Not that pretty for Mudvayne. I don't know. They're actually blending really well. I think the bass is mixed in a way where it cuts through, but on some of these really big tense chords, it's all smeared together for this just big accent of tension between both the guitar and the bass part now. I think this is the most varied Mudvayne song I've heard in terms of sounding like they're a part of the nu metal scene. I feel like I wouldn't call Pantera nu metal, but there were some sections that reminded me of that. This sounded like some self-titled Slipknot stuff. Here and there, just some of the rhythmic phrasings with less notes, more rhythm, a lot of B-string chuggy work. And it's still cool that he's able to inject these forward lead, jump out of the mixed bass parts that he's known for. I just love listening to it. Really makes it colorful there. Ooh, I think that was A major. Whoa. That has to be bass. Bass tapping? That has to be what that is. It's misleading because, as I just got done saying a little while ago, is that the thinner nature of the Warwick Thumb bass tone, especially when you put it through a filter like that and some effects, it's like it could be guitar. But I only hear the character of those bass strings and tapping. Like, I'm just really used to hearing that sound as somebody who's played a lot of tapping. It has to be this type of like going up between two major chords back to back. Let's see if that's what that is. It has to be. Cool, dreamy chorus thing on it. Where did that start? Something in there. Wow. Completely unexpected. I think this is an odd meter too. Almost sounded like 9 or a 7 alternating. Could be just 4/4, I don't know. I'm not the best at deciphering time signatures, especially when there's other things going on. And as I've said before, time signatures are just kind of open to interpretation, just depending on how you want to feel it. But I feel like there's some irregularity there. Something maybe 9 or 7, almost very Tool-like in a way, where they make it just smooth enough where you can't quite tell. And it doesn't quite matter, but you just know it's off rhythmically in a cool way. Kind of forces you as a listener to find the pulse again. I think that's one of the cool things about odd meter. You put it in a song after establishing a completely different feel before, kind of get your attention again from a rhythmic standpoint. Yeah. Really dreamy section. Just didn't expect this on the first Mudvayne album. Going between 2 major chords, almost sounds kind of demented, happy in a way. It's like almost too happy. That's tough to decipher because I feel the guitar and the bass are doing two slightly different things there. Either Ryan is hitting the intended chord, but he's jumping off of it really quickly and maybe inverting it or sliding out of it. Just the way those two parts work together, it's like you can hear they're in unison. That's kind of the character of that riff. But in typical Ryan Martinie fashion, he's jumping away and doing something else to just elevate it. It's almost just to confuse you as a listener. You can't just lock into that groovy riff. It's like there's an extra layer, there's an extra dimension to it that kind of pulls you in. All while that single note vocal thing, once again, is just like an echo in the back of your mind. Really interesting stuff. It's a really cool riff. I almost have to go look up the tab specifically for that, just kind of see how the two work together. Right here. You can hear him jump up and do the just really quick. So it must be a real moving around type of bass part. Cool. All this. Vocals there on the F sharp. So it's got to have some F sharp there in the riff. It's just kind of like all over the place, no real pattern there. I think what's cool about it is just, again, the way the bass and the guitar are working together in terms of the note choices. They feel like they line up for a second in unison, they compete for a second, one of them complements each other for a second. That's the progressive nature of some of the things on this album I've remarked on before. Cool stuff. Futile to play along with that one. Fade out. If they're gonna fade out on a riff, that's a cool one to do it on. I didn't have my lights on this whole song. Dadgummit. Gotta do it again. That entire composition is very strange. It almost had a bit of that pretty melody in the vocals here and there from songs like Death Blooms. If I'm just going to reference other songs from this album I've heard, with the technicality and percussive tension of maybe a song like Dig. And it's like if you were to ask me, what's the main riff of the song Severed? I don't really think there was one. It's just like a playground for Ryan Martinie to be percussive, grab these octaves, maybe do this slap thing, do these little jazzy melodies here and there, and then reference it again in the beefier bass line down below in the verses. I mean, it's just kind of all over the place. Very strange song, but I'm not mad at it because of how upfront the bass is and how many just cool things he threw at the song. Just literally everywhere. And even when there were those riffs that are prescribed to be more in unison, he still found a way to make you feel like they're in unison, but still do something independent. I'm just so fascinated with where his headspace was and maybe still is as a bass player. I've heard some of the Soften the Glare stuff. We've done one of those songs here on the channel. I just find for a metal bass player, you don't find guys like this. He's one of the most unique out there. Just the way he can flip a riff around, almost steal the show, and you don't even know what's happening. Just really cool stuff. You know, when I think about Mudvayne, I'm not the biggest fan of their songs, but I have to say I like them because of the bass stuff. And I think there's some gems throughout their songs I really have come to like based on what I've heard. So again, I got to come back and check out something else from this band. I think there's one or two albums I haven't done a song from. Definitely some later ones, but nonetheless, it's good to get back to Mudvayne. It's good to have an excuse to bring the Warwick Thumb out. I left the lights off the whole video, so I'll leave them on until the end. But thank you guys for hanging out with me today. If you'd like to support the channel further, please come find us over on Patreon. I do full albums over there. I also have bass lessons, music theory lessons, and tons of stuff if you'd like to learn from me. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do that now. Check over here for some of my other Mudvayne reactions. I love you all. We'll see you in the next one.